Can you wiggle that mouse really quick?
Check 1, 2. Check, check.
sucker born every month.
Microphone on. There we go. A couple of other announcements. On Monday, the NJCAA announced it's all academic teams with 9 teams and 83 Bronc-Buster athletics making the list. I think this is a great achievement for our student athletes, and we would like to congratulate them. And finally, near and dear to my heart, congratulations to the Bronc-Buster volleyball team on earning the 2023 USMC All Academic Achievement Team for their hard work during the classroom. They represent the top 20% of teams with GPAs in our division earning honor roll distinction. So we would like to thank the Garden City Community College volleyball team for making that. I don't have really anything else to comment on. With that, we'll go to the report from SGA.
One more month without them.
We'll wait till they come back. They'll be cocked and ready. Hope so. Introduction of new employees.
We have 2 this evening. The first one is Oscar Rivera. Oscar, if you'll come up. So Oscar is one of our new computer support specialists here at the college. He is originally from El Salvador, where he was a computer science teacher and a computer maintenance service technician. He brings over 13 years of computer support service and experience, and he officially started March 20th of this year. Welcome. And next we have Joshua Guyman Jr. How are you?
All right.
Good. So Joshua is also a new computer support specialist. He is a Garden City native and graduated from Garden City High School. He received his associate's in science from the college and went on to receive his Bachelor of Science in Information Networking and Telecommunications from Fort Hays State University. And Joshua's officially start date was May 1st of this year. So welcome.
Live long and prosper in computer technology at GCCC.
Are there any more new introductions? Then we will go to a report from Faculty Senate.
Well, I don't actually have much of a report because it's summertime. And Senate hasn't officially met for a little while. But summer courses are going well, and we are looking forward. We've scheduled our next meeting for when we return in August. And so next time you should have our new president, Cody Cundiff, to come give a report. Cody Cundiff. All right. I think it will be. So.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, I guess we'll move on into executive session.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board recess into executive session to discuss confidential employee information pursuant to the open meetings exception for personnel matters, non-elected personnel, which if discussed in open meeting might violate their right to privacy. And that our president, Dr. Ruda, vice president of student services, Colin Lamb, and vice president of administrative services, Carla Armstrong, be included. The open meeting will resume here in the Ronald J. Scott Endowment Room in 10 minutes.
I have a motion made. Do I hear a second? Is there any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. committee. We're going to move on into the consent agenda. Before we do that, I would ask anybody on this board when they have, if after reviewing the minutes, if they have any additions, deletions, or corrections that need to be made from what is stated.
I would ask that we pull page 37 with the cash and bank. There's a correction on that page. I think that's been made in your
Okay.
in your agendas, but just so that we can note that in the minute.
Or
Page 37.
do we need to pull 38 and 41 also?
Mhm.
38 is the revenue neutral rate. 41 is the baseball video board. I guess we pull those two, D and E. Okay,
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda items A, B, and C, removing D and E.
have a motion and all. Also C4.
Also C4.
Oh, yeah, C4 is one.
Okay.
So we're pulling C4. And we're pulling page 38 resolution to exceed and then contract on baseball video.
All of-
Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Right, then we will go on to item C4, cash and bank.
Only correction on this page here is noted in your packets is on the maturity date of the CD at Green First. It is actually maturing on August 10th, 2023. So it's just correcting the date of maturity.
I make a motion to accept the amended cash and bank on page 37.
Have a motion made. We have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody want to make a motion to on the revenue neutral rate?
It's, the same in years past. We've got nothing to lose, but a potential to gain, so. Similar to the conversations we've had in past years, I make a motion
To accept it.
to accept the revenue neutral rate intent.
Motion made. Do I have a second? Second. Made and second. Any further discussion?
Just to clarify, this is not the resolution. This is just the declaring the intent.
Yeah.
With the clerk.
It's what we've done in the past
Yep.
couple of times already. Okay,
Or
I'll-
various dates.
I'm sorry, Carla.
I said, sometimes the various dates and wording on those dates get kind of confusing, but we will have a resolution that is definitely.
This was only the intent.
Yes.
Nothing's.
Okay, we have a motion made second. Any, no further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. The contract for baseball video board.
I'll go through here and just kind of highlight some things and then we'll also yield to Mike if there's any specific questions there on the board or technical questions if he has the expertise in, but I don't. But this is a project that's being brought forward. This is an item there that our current scoreboard is end of life. There's been several updates that we've made to it there over the course of the last few years. It's at a point where we need to replace. So as we were going through conversations and looking at what our options were, we had a discussion with a private donor that came to the table and has agreed to fund in its entirety the cost of video board that would replace the scoreboard and serve as the video board, Williams Stadium there as well. The private donation would be funded over 4 years, repaid in full in that time frame. Our selection, as we've gone through this, we'd actually went out and secured bids from two individual vendors. We did not have to do that there because the Daktronics bid is listed on the state contract list. So they've already gone through the procurement to be listed on the state contract list. However, we wanted to do our diligence still to be able to bring additional options. It is our recommendation that we proceed with the bid from Daktronics. This is the same company, I'm more familiar with this, the same company that we used for the football and soccer and track complex. So it's a company that we're familiar with there as far as mechanisms and the programming of the board. The other piece that I would say to this there, just in, really going through and looking at this, is on the funding and in the budget information, in order to be able to move this project forward, and to have this secured and in place before next spring for the season. Our recommendation is to be able to, we have a CD that is maturing here in August. So our recommendation is that as that CD matures, that we would take proceeds from that CD, use it towards a purchase of this particular project, and then reinvest the additional funds back into a CD. So as the individual donor comes and pays back over the course of the 4-year time frame, they would be paying us back in full, and we would then in turn go back and reinvest those funds as we receive them. But in order to move the project along up front, this would be our recommendation to do that. In addition to this, there's also a supplemental cost. We would have to run fiber from the press box. So there's fiber that will run from the press box out to the video board. We've secured 2 different bids with local vendors for $55,000 in order to do that. So that would be the only other cost that we would have incurred in front of what it is you're seeing presented for the video board. So again, it's opportunities that we weren't necessarily seeking, but they were opportunities that presented themselves, and being able to structure this to where we can utilize, the generosity of the donors to be able to bring these items forward and address an item that we needed to address anyways, really helps to serve dual purposes. So
Will that somehow be connected to the video and putting it out online so people at home can watch the game? That'll all be part of this. Mike?
If you've been obviously to a football game, we have where the stream is pushed out to the board. So yeah, pretty much all the capabilities of the board at the football stadium and the track and soccer complex will be identical to what we can do with this board at baseball. So to answer your question, yes.
Well, no, I guess, and I'm sure you've checked it out and you know what we're doing, but I go back to what we did in the gym and basketball, and that was kind of a mess up for 3 years. And we're not going to have something like that occur on this, are we?
No, and part of what happened with the gym was when we ordered the first board, we had just a fixed digit board. We should have had 2 digital boards. Obviously, we had a donor come in for the donation of the second board. So no, we will not have any issues like that with this particular board.
Well, when you should have had and didn't have, tells me somebody wasn't taking care of making sure we have what we should have had and didn't have.
Well, I can tell you, Leonard, that we definitely made sure at the end that we have what we need to have
Or-
as of now. So
And I think you, yeah, I'm more comfortable with you doing this. quite frankly, and I just want to make sure from my perspective, we've got that covered.
Yeah, and to me, they're all fair questions, so. I can answer any other technical questions that anybody has, so.
Will the fiber line be straight out through like the pitcher's mound and, or is
It-
it gonna go around?
It's gonna go around, so they're gonna have trenches basically built. So there are two options right now. There's the option to run the fiber from the press box to the video board, and again, it's gonna go around. The second option is to actually have that run to a control room in the DPAC, which one of the reasons why we've presented that is because of the weather control. We keep all the computers and all the hardware out of the elements. Plus the press box right now at baseball, it's not secure. Anybody can go up there and grab. And we're talking about a system that's $235,000. So there are two parts of that, what Dr. Ruda had talked about with the fiber run. One was, I think, 55,000, and I think, which is the full run to the DPAC. The less expensive one, at least from Davis, was 49,000, which is that's directly to the press box. So
So it's going to be in the DPAC.
one way, it's either going to the press box, whatever gets approved, obviously, but
Recommendation
yeah.
is- So what I presented to you with the 55,000 cost is to run it to DPAC, so we have security figured out.
So in our motion, we need to make sure that we're approving expenses to run it, put it in the DPAC and get the line as all of that. Is that correct?
Correct. Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I just have a question about the financing again. Can you explain that one more time? And do we have a contingency plan in case something happens to the donor?
So, yeah, so explaining it, so we have a CD that will mature on August 10th, $1 million. So our plan is that at that time that we would take the funds that are needed, which is 300,000 from that CD to be able to use towards the purchase of this, and then we would reinvest the 700,000 back into we would shop it out for CDs to be able to put it back out in bid.
Okay.
So we would be using the proceeds that come from that CD maturing, and then put 700,000 out instead of the contingency. You know, I mean, contingency is always something that has to be built into the scenarios. You know, we have a signed contract in place here with the donor. So, you know, we have that. I mean, contingency wise, there is the worst case scenario is if we have a $300,000 expense and something were to happen with the donor. But this is a donor that has been a very good friend of the college in the past there, so we do not believe that they will not come forward there with the obligation.
Okay,
Now, do we have to have that 55,000 for the connection? Do we have to vote on that since that's underneath our limit? I mean, right now, all we have in our package is a 235.
Correct. I would say that since that is a part of the project, just to make it clean and knowing that the total costs are going to be incurred for the project, that we would include those costs there within the recommendation because of using the proceeds on the CD towards that purchase.
Make sure that we're above board.
So our motion needs to be for the cost of, and then the additional cost of the
55 or
55,000 for fiber optics or whatever it is.
Not to exceed 300,000.
I'm sorry.
Not to exceed 300,000.
Okay.
We can just say that we're approving the bid for the scoreboard, video board project, not to exceed 300,000. That gives us variance between the board and the fiber, just to be all inclusive what's needed. Does that make sense?
Any further discussion?
I just would say that I support this proposal. I think that the athletic department is working really hard to put our athletics out in the spotlight and bring us up to current, experiences at sporting events. So I appreciate it.
And obviously I thank everybody on the board because we can't do this without you guys. So
Well, our athletics make us noted within the state, and we've been there for a long time. Garden City Community College has always been at the top up there somewhere, and I don't want to see us falling down. And it means something to kids they're recruiting when they come in and see what we've got. So I'm in complete agreement with doing this.
You said the old board is the original board, isn't it?
I don't believe it's the
No.
original. It was, no, it
Oh,
was replaced. It was replaced about 10 years ago.
Any more discussion? I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Chairman, I make a motion to approve item D or item E as presented with the addition of
55.
financial planning for installation of fiber and the price of the project to be capped at $300,000.
Have a motion made. Do I hear a second?
A second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
I
Opposed, motion carried.
thank you.
Thank you, AD Philosoph.
And I'll see you tomorrow morning. Okay, we'll move on to the confirmation of monitoring reports. Go to page 63. Does anybody have any questions on the first policy title mission? Garden City Community College exists to produce positive contributors to the economic and social well-being of society. Anybody have any problem with the way that's written or anything they'd like to change on it or add to it?
Just reviewing the reports, actually.
So what page are you on?
This is reviewing
The next.
the president's reports.
Oh, okay.
Page 60.
Oh. Yes. Okay, let me get on the right page.
Well, I need all the help I can get, Shanda. We're, I'll go back to, the mission. Does any have? Is it okay the way it's written?
So Chairman, I would just remind you that we're reviewing the president's report on how he meets the mission. And then next month, we would discuss the language of the mission.
Hey,
So
you're getting, yeah, I'm with you.
these are the ones we checked Ryan's work. These are the ones we checked policy.
All right.
The wording gets confusing. I always have to
How-
say it twice.
Okay, let's go on over to page 65. Budgeting, financing, planning, forecasting. That meet with everyone's approval. This. I guess in page 66, that kind of talks about that,
Yeah.
right?
On the monitoring report on the financial conditions. I know we have a minimum 20% on cash reserves, but I'm pleased to see the 23.72. That was kind of the highlight that stuck out for me on those.
I think what is nice about these particular set of governances is that they're more of the black and white kind of things that we do compared to some of the other stuff that's more difficult to define. It's either yes, we are, or no, we're not. So our college finance department does a great job of following the parameters outlined. And then I would add that I think the description on page 69, talking about the additional revenue sources, more than any other year that I have been a trustee, this year has been exemplary for garnishing extra funds. So I don't know how you're going to top it, but thank you.
Work to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just good, great work. Deal with all our counterparts in education field and be one group instead of 4 different separate.
Carla, you're the CFO. I'd like to hear what you think of where we are.
Well, I think well, first of all, on page 68, I need to make a correction. So that the numbers match. In the first section, section 1, the capital outlay fund is estimated to be 637,297. That is correct. So the number in number 2 is that same number, not the 725. So just in all transparency. So just a matter of including some encumbrances, and anyway, I apologize for that, but I just wanted to clarify that. I think the financial condition at the college is very stable. It's been an interesting year post-COVID when you have $10 million interjected into your finances through, not all of it to the college, half of that, 4 million or so, was to students. But, we've been able to make a lot of taking care of a lot of necessary deferred maintenance things that were put on the back burner, i.e. furniture in the ACAD building, that other critical functioning operational things always would take precedent. So I really feel that we're at a place right now that we need to be real conservative for a year, just to kind of, I would like to see us make sure that we can take care of those emergency needs, like when the quad area between the dorms, the pipes keep breaking and we fix that. And then another week, another area breaks. And so we were able to reach out and say, can you fix this before school? That being $160,000. And we were able to respond to that situation at that level of spend. So, because if you don't, it's just like a car that needs to be replaced. You're just putting, good money after bad projects. So, I also think that living in Garden City in a community that continues to have economic growth is a blessing to all of us. I know that sometimes nobody likes to pay taxes. However, we do provide a lot of opportunities and partnerships within our community. And I think anybody in the economic development world would, give acknowledgement to the college in securing some of those businesses that have come to Garden City. That being said, we have had some challenges this year or going forward in the budgeting process for next year, which you'll hear about at the budget retreat, one being health insurance. The renewal that we received this year was a crisis. Crises dictate change, respond with change. And so we have come up with a solution that was blessed by the benefits committee. So we will be interjecting more money in for our employees for health insurance, but I feel good about that change. And I think we've got a lot of buy-in. Those are scary times, but so we've got to be able to continue to respond to those unexpected things. And I feel like we are at a point like that. So I put my head on the pillow every night, not worrying. But we've got some key positions that need to be filled. And we have a competitor to the east that sometimes, I mean, I don't know how they're paying the salaries that they're paying over there, but it's a situation that we have to keep a pulse on because we can't lose our good people. Can we afford to pay the salaries that they're paying? Well, that's a matter of choice. What can we afford? But we just have to keep a watch on that so that we don't lose, our number one asset as far as our human capital. But Leonard, to answer your question, other than our health insurance, most of our renewals and subscriptions, et cetera, have been consistent. Prices go up, but nothing in a crisis state. So.
Well, we approved redoing some plumbing and all in the dorm. Is that about completed?
It is completed, except for, we actually went over there today. I think there's just some coverings or something covering the access area to the plumbing chases that has to be completed, but it looks really nice. The floors, the showers, the bathroom dividers. And we went with a new contractor we hadn't used before. Is that correct? And they were very responsive and very timely. So we were consolidated.
Okay. And then all these breaks that we had. Do we anticipate there's going to be more breaks?
I'm going to talk about that in a moment.
All right, then I'll let you talk about that in a little bit.
That's unacceptable.
Okay.
Like that.
I lost track where we were.
Right.
Shanda, can you help me? You tell us where were we? We're ready to
Is
approve
everybody
that.
good with the monitoring report
Yeah.
provided?
Thank you, Carla.
Then we'll move on to B1, page 75.
Okay, academic advancement.
These are the ones we're looking at. Reviewing and changing, adding whatever. One we just updated last summer.
I don't. Yeah, we can always change a word here, and we never get anywhere. We still have the same meaning there. I don't see any need for that, but
I just would say in tangent to this ends on academic advancement, I think we can discuss at our retreat any further ideas on how we define student success. Right now, these are pretty easy to monitor, and I think we should not change them. So, but we can discuss it later if you guys are interested.
Well, and I think the retreat, when we kind of look at these, sometimes we make a change to one. And it sparks or inspires a change to another to keep them in line. So I think that'll be a really good time for us to look at it as a package instead of, so we don't miss the forest for the trees or miss the tree for the forest.
Okay.
So,
Want to go on over to page 76? Assets shall not be unprotected, inadequately maintained, or unnecessarily risked.
Okay, so I do have a couple things to talk about on this particular one, and I appreciate anybody's input. I was reviewing some other community college policies, and we've kind of talked about some of this stuff tonight already. And the first one would be talking about emergency situations. Okay, so in this particular asset protection, there's nothing in here that says we give President Ruda the authority to act in an emergency situation to spend money to take care of our assets. So I thought that that would be something that we should add. Yes? Okay.
Yeah.
The policy that I reviewed from another community college also talked about that the president would outline how he would do that and make it a formal policy. So tell me what you think.
I think it's wise, Marilyn. I don't like sitting here fat, dumb and happy and having the emergency hit us and say, well, we don't have a way to take care of this.
Well, and it also helps give them authority to act without having to wait for a board meeting to spend money.
We're having to call an emergency board meeting. It still
Right.
takes time.
Right.
The other thing that does in the event that it was a catastrophic situation and FEMA is involved, it gives you some procurement protection because it's in policy to respond to the immediate situation. Because that's it's a blessing to get additional funds. But from experience, I can tell you that there are lots of hoops. And so, you just learn through those things, but I would appreciate that addition.
Okay. So here's my suggestion. It would be a number 8. Accordingly, the president shall not fail to evaluate and act urgently in emergency situations to maintain asset protection.
You want to put that in the motion? Or do we just want to add it?
so but there's no parameters on what defines what is,
I didn't put that in there. I left it broad. What are your thoughts?
read it again, Marilyn.
Okay. Okay, accordingly, the president shall not fail to evaluate and act urgently in emergency situations to maintain asset protection.
Does that give you enough protection? If you make a choice and not everybody sees that as an urgent emergency,
That was gonna be part of my point there, is I think that there's absolute discretion about what is rising to the level of emergency versus not. But I think you also have to have some latitude for that discretion there as well.
where's the balance of
Right.
giving you?
In my opinion, I'll take some part of it against it. If this was on the front page of the newspaper, can you justify your actions for your decisions? So I guess, from my standpoint, I think it is using that ability to have discretion, but also knowing that you have to stand for answering on why you.
I just
Why you
want to
make
make
that
sure this is set for any president. Anybody
Understand.
in this position that we don't have to trust an individual's
Mhm,
judgment call.
mhm.
And, you know, because it's already up to 150 without board approval anyway, so.
Well, I'm just thinking of a life situation that I experienced when we had much like Great Bend with roofs blowing off a dorm and the, reaching out to a contractor in Kansas City that immediately came down, took action, protected the dorm and I can't remember, it's been too many years ago, but at that point, it's not a matter of what it costs. It's a matter of, can you get it done?
Yeah.
And coordinating that with insurance also, so, but not having to worry about breaking the rules, just protecting the assets.
Yeah, I want to be careful that we don't make it too limited. Right, because as both of them have mentioned, it has to be done, it has to be done immediately. So let's don't hamper them with too narrow of a description.
Yeah.
And
Agree.
that's why I like Maryland's.
I believe Maryland's definition is broad enough to do that. And I hope that the board has enough confidence in their president to make those good decisions. If not, then we have another problem.
Our policy shouldn't be about whoever's president. It should be anybody in that position.
Right.
So any discussion on limitations on this is not a reflection on Ryan.
No.
It's protection for the office.
I like what you've come up with, Merlin. But my experience is, I still have a lot of confidence in our president that before he does some of these things, he's going to pull some people. He's going to be doing his homework. Yeah, and I think we need something like what you have suggested in here to protect whoever the president is coming down the road. And you and I may not be here, but maybe some of the rest, maybe we'll have a totally different board and they need to understand why that's in there, I think. So putting it in there is a good idea.
Yeah. Well,
Do we define it as like in case of, oh, I don't know, acts of God, natural disaster? I mean,
Well, she's talking about in emergency situations.
okay.
Yeah, the intention is that we expect the president to act and act urgently if it's needed. Okay,
And we need to study that a little more.
Are important to remain in there though as well. It's not saying that you have carte blanche authority to act. You're gonna evaluate, you're gonna assess, to determine what it is action wise.
right. Okay,
It says evaluate.
right. So one more time, accordingly, the president shall not fail to evaluate and act urgently in emergency situations to maintain asset protection.
I think that's a good start.
It says evaluate, then act.
Yeah, but if you have a roof blown off, you're going to evaluate it real quick. It's gone. We got to get it in there before it rains.
Right.
Yeah, and any of these are open to interpretation. There are ever decisions made that are in question.
Right. And we have to rely on our other governance policies that would say the president will communicate all of his decisions with us and give
There's
us a
always
report.
Somebody that's going to question it. So do you want to have that put in, Maryland? Do we need to prove it here on the board?
Yeah, I
Have
think
that
if we,
put in and
if
add
we
it?
have consensus, we'll add that statement. And then I have one more to consider. This would be on number 5. And this has to do with, again, what we talked about was our state contracts for looking at bids. And so I added this for your discretion or discussion. Make any purchase between 50,000 and 149,999 without competitive pricing and due consideration regarding cost, quality, and service, and or utilize cooperative contracts established by purchasing cooperatives that are deemed to be in the college's best interest. Do you want to look at it and mull it over, Carla?
I think the way it's currently written, covers what you're adding, but I think by adding just gives a little more detail. Because if it's in a cooperative agreement, it's already been procured and solicited, but just for a person who's not in the procurement world, I think it just clarifies that. So I think it's good. Clarifies the practice.
Okay.
It just seems sometimes like if you get to wording too many ways, putting too many words into it, then somebody's going to find an exception that they can kind of mull things up from it.
It's just been like in the last year or two that we've been using these state suggested contracts. So
Yeah, you're starting to see.
mhm.
It's not.
To me, it seems like a third avenue, right? An additional avenue.
Anybody else got any comments? I guess if we have a consensus, we can add that also.
Yes.
Everybody agree?
Okay. So I only have one copy. I'm going to give it to Jody.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
that's who's going to end up getting it
I
anyway.
think that's good language, just like what we brought forward there in the video. We could have only brought forward that comments. Had the only bit here because they've gone through the state process. They chose to go out and have to pay for the state with that. So it's, that was a step that we felt like.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's good language.
even though the policy says you don't have to.
Well, I don't ever want to see us get in a situation that you're afraid to act because of some little technicality. But any more on our monitoring reports that we need to talk about? If not, we'll go on to, are there any public comments?
I'm sorry, Leonard, we
That's
had
all right.
one more to review.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Which, and I didn't have any additions to, it's compensation and benefits, page 77. All of this language is directly from Carver policy. So I'm going to just throw out a question to President Ruda. Number 2, promise or imply permanent or guaranteed employment on page 77. How does that apply to faculty with tenure? Because
Well, they, they would fall more underneath number 4 as far as employment contracts, so they have contracts. I think what number 2 is. What number 2 is, applying, because it says apply, is being able to have an individual that comes and says, Marilyn, I really want to be able to have you here at the college. I'm going to guarantee that we're going to hire you and keep you for 10 years. But we don't have the, I don't know what it is you're going to do during those 10 years. And so I've just allowed you the ability to know you have a guaranteed job regardless of what your actions, following policy may entail. So I don't know that we've ever ran into those issues here, but I think it prevents, again, I mean, it's preventing actions that we don't want to occur.
Okay,
It's all in the employment contracts. There is no Ryan in the back room shaking a hand, going nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Yeah.
I'm gonna,
Yeah, I mean,
there's something that's not in the contract, I'm promising to you.
yeah, and I think that was why we had added number 4 a couple of years ago, was because we did have employment contracts that were being offered that had not gone through the proper review. So we
Right.
put in place to.
They were not legal.
Pardon,
They were not legal.
had not gone through the proper review, and
Yeah.
yes. Yeah. That answers it.
yeah, it does. Thank you. I appreciate the discussion. And board, I really appreciate your input on everything. Thank you.
You ready to move on?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
So, right, okay.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Have any public comments, Jody? Had none. Okay. Then we'll go to the president's report.
Few items, did want to just acknowledge and recognize one of our alumni, Todd Tishner. Want to congratulate him. He was class of 1997. He served here recently as the crew chief, working behind home plate for the 93rd Major League Baseball All-Star team on July 11th. So done a tremendous job in coming through the ranks and representing Garden City Holcomb and College very well. You'll notice that the name of the endowment room has changed to the Ronald J. Scott Endowment Room for this next year. Ken Scott had purchased this during the endowment auction at 10:30 this Thursday. We will have the formal naming ceremony and have that here in this room just to formally announce the naming. And then the president's conference room over in the Student Services Building for this next year will be named Fry Eye Conference Room. So I just wanted to draw attention to that. Tomorrow morning, for those that are able to attend, would just invite you to the chamber breakfast. We will be doing a joint presentation with Newman University at the chamber breakfast, announcing our partnership with Newman University to initiate the business and agribusiness bachelor's degree completion programs that'll be starting this fall. And then following the chamber breakfast, we will be also hosting a luncheon starting at 11:30 for individuals and businesses just to come in and learn more about the program, talk about the program, and hear about the financial incentives that are being offered through Newman University for this degree completion as well. So breakfast starts at 7:30 in the Clarion in the ballroom, and then we'll proceed back over here and host a luncheon with university administration.
Will you make an announcement during your time there that about this hosting of this luncheon?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Mhm. I did want to just draw attention there, and you'll be getting to it in your later in your agenda, but I wanted to draw attention to some information and incidentals, particularly starting on page 80. You know, a lot of times we take for granted just how much is occurring and happening over a short period of time here in the summer. And there's been a tremendous amount of work and updates, renovations that have been completed here over this summer. Craig had put together some summaries that show you pictures. So on page 80 in the top right is a picture of what the new bathrooms in West Hall look like. So you were asking earlier about whether the plumbing and that project had been completed. You know, you get a picture there of what the new sinks in West Hall look like. But I just wanted to kind of highlight some of these things. If you haven't noticed, the Garden City Career Connections Academy, which is our adult education center across the street from the Student Services Building. We did a total renovation of that building. So we did interior and exterior paint, carpeting, and looks tremendous. There's some pictures in the middle of page 80 that show you a lot of the renovations. We will here after one of these meetings go over and just let you see, kind of walk through and let you see the renovations that really give it a facelift. We will be converting our one tennis court that is not the John Deere parking space, but it's actually a tennis court that will also be used as pickleball starting next year. So we will be painting the court, installing an adjustable net that can be used for tennis or for pickleball. That's really picked up in interest. Our student government last year had asked if they could have a pickleball court, and this is one way for us to be able to have that offer to them. And then Joyce Fine Arts, just want to point out that we've had quite a bit of work being done over in the Fine Arts Auditorium this summer with complete replacement of the sound and lights and the sound system that will be done this summer as well. So the only other thing is just with our media lab. So we did have a grant through Cox Communications that provided opportunity for us to renovate the media lab for student media. So you see some pictures of that on page 81. And then a lot of work that's been done on the grounds, just with some beautification projects and a new project you see in the middle of page 81 that later this fall we will have more of an unveiling, but that is a Lydia Gonzalez memorial that has a water feature and will be named in her honor later this fall. So just wanted to draw attention to a lot of those things and just appreciate Craig and his team for getting a lot of those projects completed and in a short amount of time being able to facilitate that as well. That is all I have.
Okay. How about Benton County Economic Development Corporation? No report. Okay. Beth, you got anything from KACCT?
The next meeting is scheduled for KACCT.
Just KACC.
Yeah, because when we decided on that, it's not just the trustees that are involved, so that new name is KACC, get rid of the T. This, the next meeting will be August 25th and 26th at Clark County Community College. I will be unable to attend for personal commitments. Ryan will go, but if he don't want to do it all by himself, if somebody on the board would like to go in my place, because the other schools do have people that come. So, and particularly if somebody would be interested in being the representative next year. The second, get with Ryan beside that. The second thing I wanted to mention, and by the way, Jody, I shared this with the trustees and so it's not a surprise to them, but maybe a surprise to you. A couple of years ago, I signed up for the ACCP awards. Well, it was a meeting held in Texas. And so I was there. So the next thing I knew, they asked me if I would be on the awards committee for the Western region. We're the Western region. There are a bunch of other parts of the state. Anyway, so there are, we just completed it this past week. In fact, we had to turn in our nomination approvals or suggestions by yesterday. And there are five 8 awards. And what happens, we turn these in for the Western region and all the other regions do the same thing. They're tabulated, and then in the, meeting in, Las Vegas, the award winners will be announced. So there's one for trustee leadership, there's one for, equity award candidates, and those are the colleges and themselves that are nominated. The CEO award, a faculty award, and a professional board staff member. The thing I wanted to mention were two things. First of all, every one of the nominations was from Texas, except there was one for a faculty award from Nebraska. The thing I wanted to point out on the professional board staff member award candidates, I read them all through and I thought, how come Jody's name's not there? I mean, Jody, you put these other three nominations sort of in your shadow, and I just wanted to express my appreciation for all you do for this board, and particularly helping me wipe my nose. But that is, anyway, so turn them in, you will, they will announce the winners. But it was really interesting, because last year when I did it, every one of them, there was about at least 3 nominations, and if not 6. This time we had 2 for the trustee, only 1 college, 1 CEO, 3 faculty nominees, and 3 staff members. Anyway, I don't know. Dying on the vine is not important at this point. And maybe the other regions were different. The thing that disappointed me was they were all from Texas except one. So that's what I had to say.
Just real quick before we move on, then.
Yes.
There is, I think we had mentioned this there as far as whether we can know from the board side there, if there's interest in anybody attending ACCT. We have the conference registration deadlines approaching, so. just
Yeah,
like
this
to-
is our last meeting before the early registration deadline. Then I can go. Am I gonna be the only one?
I wouldn't
I think-
mind
I think
going,
my
I don't know
eligibility-
if the election's coming up, is it proper or not, if I don't win.
I wouldn't worry about that.
I wouldn't either, Dave.
You want to go, I'd go.
Blake went last time.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
If you're committed to.
If you want to go, I think you should go.
I go, but my eligibility is used up. Oh, yeah, she can pack.
And the day, Ireland.
If nobody else wants, I will.
I would, but where is it? I don't know.
Vegas.
That's what I
That's
thought.
we're talking
Las
about.
Vegas, no, I don't want, I'm not going. Maryland, have a good time. No, I'll give you $1. You can put it in the slot for me.
Okay, we'll get you registered.
Good
By
group.
we, I say.
Yeah,
We know.
we know.
And hopefully you won't have to sit out there on the airplane for an hour trying to get off.
That happens about every flight everywhere.
That happened.
Up and
Whether
down.
it's Texas or the next flight or what.
Just know I'll sit off the alarm. With my knee.
All right. Let's see. We're ready for our master facilities plan report. Is that correct?
Yes. So we know from conversations we've had with the board, I really just want to be able to dive in and give you more of a high level overview of the master's facilities plan. I know you've seen this, but really being able to get some conversations, discussions about how items are added to the master's facilities plan, what's included, where's it derived from, and a lot of those questions. And Craig is going to kind of walk through that there, but kind of in looking at this and preface to talking about this, it really provides context for a historical look back at the campus. So it's taking a look building by building, really looking at the grounds of of the college in its entirety. And looking at it from a historical lens, as far as well as kind of current plans, where we're at, what's being planned, but then also future looking. What is it that we need to be future minded about? So a lot of those conversations, things, what I would envision and hopefully we can talk through is just going through and understanding a little bit more in depth about what the master's facilities plan is. And then starting to have just some discussion about things that maybe you have questions on or items that you're thinking that we need to be thinking about their future minded wise there for consideration. So, Greg,
Okay, I actually have three sections. I may have taken just a little bit of license. I want to talk a bit about facilities first and, who we are and why we do the things we do. We've put a new logo into place and it really talks about what we are: safety, excellence, integrity, and service. And I tell my guys, the best they can hope for, maybe not the best, but one of their goals needs to be to do their job with such a level of excellence and fidelity and service that for the most part, they're not noticed. That things just happen when a job needs to be done, it's already done. If we have the next slide, please. Okay. We also have a mission statement. Everybody knows the Garden City Community College mission statements, but facilities department exists to plan, build, maintain campus buildings, grounds, vehicles, and technology in a manner that supports excellence and enhances the Garden City Community College mission, vision, and values. Everything we do, every decision we make, every conversation we have, every task we take on, it needs to work together for the good of the students and for the good of the community college in the future. And then vision is to foster an environment conducive to learning and help ensure GCCC becomes the community college of choice for our constituents. We are really just this light on the prairie out here. And we need to get the word out that things are happening at Garden City Community College. If we have the next slide, Dr. Ruda talked about the project, so I'm glad I didn't do a vacation type slideshow of all the projects we've done this summer. In your packet is what we looked at before, but also a list of all the projects and also a scaled down version of the master facilities plan. But a lot of soundproofing projects this summer. We did the dean's office in JVCT and we did the media classroom and also the testing center classroom up in SCSC. They were having trouble while they were taking the test. They could hear meetings going on next door. So the GCCA, the quad landscaping, we're working on a new main campus sign for this summer, and that's what's in the top right-hand corner there. Let's see. Okay, we can go to the next slide just briefly. Again, I said it's a busy summer. You have that information in your packet, but how do we go to the next slide, please? How do we keep track of this? In the past, it was just I would wake up in the morning, I say, hey, let's tear down some walls today. And I'd call VP Armstrong there and said, hey, can we have $150,000 to tear down some walls? And she'd call Ryan, he'd say, oh, yeah, sure, go ahead, tear some walls down. We found out that really wasn't working well for obvious reasons. We tore a lot of walls down, then we built those same walls back up the next year. We came up with a tracking system that basically takes a project from the conception phase through the approval process with the individual department heads and the deans. Communication is the key to that. We have weekly facility staff meetings. We get the departments around the table in my office. About every other week, Vice President Carla comes in and she talks to us and we go back and forth about what the financing is. We have move requests, work orders, of course. The 3-page form that goes across the top there is one that we're working on defining right now, where whoever originates the idea puts it on paper, takes it to their department head, to my department, and then to the cabinet, and then finally to the college council. And they all weigh in on it and see if it really supports the mission of Garden City Community College. Next slide, please. We've started using Microsoft Project for our projects, and it's been a wonderful tool. You can see at that point, that was about a week ago when I took that snapshot. Just about everything for the summer session is complete. And as things move around and slip, we can immediately see where we need to direct our resources to catch up to it. Okay, let's go to the next one. This is that drawing I'd always said I had seen somewhere and I never could find. Everything we do should feed back into the college strategic plan. And Mark, I think you would agree, that is really the driving document for everything we do here. Most of what facilities does either falls under pillar 4, sustainable infrastructure, sometimes under pillar 3 for resources. One thing at the bottom where it says quality facilities, if you don't have a good foundation, really none of your other pillars can stand very well. Unless we have the infrastructure and maintain the infrastructure and provide a facility that is conducive to education, we really don't have a college. Okay, go to the next one. This one's kind of detailed. I think I'll spend a little bit of time here. I think we're going to talk more about this on Friday in fleshing out the project thing. Various paths that a project can take to coming into fruition. We try to get things off the deferred maintenance list whenever possible. Things that become critical, like the piping over in the courtyard at the dorms. Sometimes resources become available. We had some money from COVID that has helped out the programs a lot. Safety issues, regulations, the nursing mothers rooms came from a conference that HR had gone to and talked about a federal regulation that should provide spaces for mothers to have some private space. Funding opportunities, of course, there's always money out there, right? Sometimes that just comes up and we can jump on that and have the flexibility to put a project in place. Expansion of programs is always good, but we do that also in a measured, thought about way and filter it through is it in the best interest of Garden City Community College? Growth opportunities, ideas from the shareholders, our staff, our students, people in the community. Sometimes they have the best ideas about the direction the college should go. So we'll have stakeholders meetings, sit down and talk. We have annual satisfaction surveys and we feed those back in. And a lot of walking around, probably 3 days a week. I'll walk around the campus with some of my team and just look at what needs to be done. Or maybe dreamcast what should be done or what we think would be good for the college. And then we feed that back in the process. And then administrative initiatives, which is kind of a fancy way of President Ruda asked me to do this. So it could be something like, well, pickleball. That was one of the ideas he saw as up and coming that other institutes were doing, that other places in town had pickleball. So we're hoping this fall to have at least 3 temporary pickleball courts over at the tennis court and over at Res Life on their basketball court and also in the back gymnasium. So we purchased some pickleball nets and we'll get some supplies and see how pickleball goes at Garden City Community College. Okay, if I could have the next slide, please. I talked a bit about the project request forms. It's kind of a new process and it helps ensure everything we do is driven by the mission of Garden City Community College. We meet on them. We sometimes go out to the architects and engineers, the dean, department head supervisors approve it. And then quarterly, cabinet and council are going to review these and decide which ones make the cut as fulfilling the vision of Garden City Community College. But at every step we ask, is this project in the best interest of GCCC and the students? And then the various roles of the different organizations there. Okay, now into the facilities master plan, if I could have the next one. It's the roadmap that we use to help determine the next steps in the facility management. It's a living document. You can see my copy here from 2022 is tabbed up and scribbled up. And we're working on 2023 right now with a revision showing the new projects we've done on campus and some of the new visions for campus. We're working, let's see. One of the things I found that I really didn't expect, I'm going to come up with a smaller version of it that we can make available for people as they hire on campus that shows them where the buildings are, the map, even some of the acronyms we use around here. Like if you say GCCA, most people don't know what you're talking about. Or go to the BTSC, well, where's that?
Or the experiment.
Oh, yeah, DPAC. Yes. Over the years, we've learned all. We know the people in most cases. But someone just hiring on or a guest on campus doesn't realize what BTSC stands for. So it's been very helpful for that. As the world changes, the academic world especially, we need to keep up with the best practice and find out ways we can better deliver our services. And everything we do should focus on improving the student experience and the appearance of the campus. Even the function, the cleanliness of the college. Talking with coaches just today, they said, we have some weeds And I have a recruit coming on campus this Friday. Can we get those weeds taken care of? So of course you get the grounds crew out there and they start mowing the weeds. And it makes a huge difference. With the dorms, if you have a family come in, if mom drops their kid off, they say, oh, this is really nice. Instead of that, oh, I don't think so. That's our goal on everything, is to make it as attractive as possible to bring people in. We need to be good stewards of the resources we have, the financial, the physical, and just to assure the sustainability of Garden City Community College. We're always short on space, of course. With the new buildings we're putting on, the STEM Center is probably the most noticeable one right now, but also the expansion over at the John Deere Tech Building. Those things have been identified over the years as weaknesses in the college and opportunities for growth to attract new programs. We have a CDL class starting this fall. So we've been scrambling around campus trying to find a place to shoehorn their classrooms and their truck and all of their activities in, because it's something the community has said that we need. Let's see. Facilities master plan seeks to identify and replace systems before they become critical issues. So rather than putting something on a list and forgetting about it, we try to take those things off the list as much as possible. Sometimes we're successful, sometimes they get ahead of us. We're fighting air conditioners right now. In the spring, we tested all the air conditioners, they were great. Over the summer, we kept them just at a maintenance level. Then students come back and we have to turn them up or down, whichever way you see it, so they're comfortable. And in the first week, we have 3 or 4 of them freeze up and a couple of the compressors die. It's just one of the costs of doing business. Now, in the past year, we've given a special attention to the public spaces, the quad and some other areas that people see. And again, they judge us on that. When they want to experience Garden City Community College, sometimes the first impression is the make or break point for their whole experience here. And we need to be sure that we're, cognizant of that everything we do is excellent. Next slide, please. Talks just a little bit about the plan. Just to develop it, and we had input from our internal people, advisory board, staff meetings, all the departments were involved. Campus walkthroughs all over the place, and external, some of our contractors, our architects, of course, were involved in developing the original plan. If I could have the next slide, and jump in here if I'm going too fast or saying too much. It was originally designed to address existing issues, fire alarms. We addressed from 2014 to 2017 in the fine arts and DPAC in the dorms. Let's see. We're planning to put the GCCC, Spruce Street Tech Building and Band Building parking lots together. We've done DPAC and the student housing and the library. And we're also talking about doing the campus streets, working around and maybe doing a quarter of the campus streets each year with concrete instead of the asphalt. In the long run, they're much easier to maintain. We're pretty good on roofs right now. I think the only rock roofs we have are over on the dorms. And underground piping, most of the quad underground piping has been replaced. I think the only section we have left is in front of a John Collins project. There's about 300 foot over there and the tunnel cap that goes on top of it. In the courtyard over at the dorms, we had kind of an emergency situation that Dr. Root has talked about. There was plastic pipe underground that runs their heating, their air conditioning, and also their drinking water, their hot water with the return line, and their cold domestic water. And it's been in the ground probably around 50 years. The pipe wasn't as good back then when they put it down, and it hasn't aged really as well. And we were out there probably 2 or 3 times a month repairing the pipe. And the actual repair is not much, but it would cost us $1,000 to rent the piece of equipment per day to dig down and fix it. And I think the last straw was that one of the lines had broken and shot a water jet out and cut through one of the adjacent lines to it. So finally, we just said, we can't do this anymore. That, it may only take a day and a few dollars to fix it, but we're going to continue to do this until the students are here and for the rest of the school year. So we asked for, emergency approval to just do the project and worked with one of the local contractors to do it quickly. Right now, we're waiting on the materials for that. And they should be in around the 24th, I think. Okay, future initiatives. We'll go to the next slide, please. STEM Center will open this fall, the John Deere Tech expansion, also an IT room. And I'm sure our IT guys in the back will be happy about that. They are actually getting their own space on campus where they can set up their offices and repair stations. We're working with CNC Group on a partnership to update the campus heating and air conditioning. They're going with artificial intelligence controlled system that senses when the buildings are occupied and adapts to the college schedule. So we don't run the equipment 24 hours a day anymore. Future library remodel, possibly. The Building Buster's Coffee Shop as a focus for student, a chiller replacement, additional security cameras around campus, continued upgrades to the fine arts. And we talked about all we've done over there. Now we need to look behind the scenes at the fly rail and the fire curtain and maybe some changes on the sound and lighting system and the main campus sign. Next slide, please. Any questions or additions or?
On your A1.
Yeah.
On the air conditioning and stuff, you said according to the schedule. What
Right.
happens if you have a class or something that's outside that schedule?
We have
I'm
a
thinking
system-
about
Yeah.
criminal justice and they have Saturday classes and
We have a system where probably the building secretary, if not Nieli and my department or myself, would be able to get on the calendar and put that class in, and it would set the heating and air conditioning where it should be. They also still have the option in the individual rooms to run the thermostats up and down.
okay.
So a lot of this runs in the background, but it doesn't replace or disable anything that we already have, which is wonderful. Okay, moving forward. We identified major needs for classroom space. We've been working on that. Yeah. Main goal is to find capital expenditure, the big ticket items, the things that might take several years to save up for and replace. And mainly, support the academic improvements, improve the student experience, achieve positive economic impact, the space needs, and beautify the campus. Okay, if I could have the next slide. We have a list of deferred maintenance. We have approximately 47 buildings, depending on what you count as a building around campus. About 500,000 square feet of floor space in the college and 244 total acres. Most of the buildings were constructed in 1967, in the 65, 66, and then opened in 67, 68. And they've been remodeled many times since then. If I could get the next slide. So deferred maintenance is basically repairs to infrastructure and assets that get delayed or backlogged because of insufficient resources. Now, over the years, there's been many remodels done due to the normal wear and tear and the changes in the program. And we've been pretty good at keeping up, the more visible aspects of the college. But sometimes the behind the scenes stuff falls behind in getting done. So the hydronic system that we talked about earlier is probably a good example. It was in the ground for about 50 years and it was cast pipe and had been wrapped and insulated a couple of times, but finally the pipe just wore out. So it was identified as a need on the original deferred maintenance list. And then over about 6 years, we replaced sections of it, starting over on the west side of, or north side of campus and moving around to the east side and then into the quad. Now we get hiccups in the quad, but we're working through them. And about the last piece of that needs to be done is in front of John Collins. There's still about 300 foot of pipe there that needs to be replaced. So roofs and parking lot and plumbing, they're all on the list. And as we find the resources, we're working to get those off. Could I have the next slide? Here's how things get on the list. Inadequate preventative maintenance can get you there. If we don't have a solid PM program, we rely on corrective maintenance like work orders. Somebody will say my air conditioner doesn't work, or there's a big leak in my classroom. Probably once a week, we were hearing that a heating or cooling valve had gone out and was leaking in someone's classroom. Budget limitations, of course, the budget's tight. Not necessarily for breakdowns or expensive repairs. If the funding's low, it's not uncommon for operating costs to be prioritized. Sometimes we do the things we have to do and things go onto the list. Sometimes it's manpower. We were short-staffed in the facilities department for a number of years, but also short on expertise. We had a lot of general maintenance people, but we've been blessed to hire some skilled carpenters, electricians and plumbers. And that saves us from having to go outside and hire contractors to do the same work. It's really saved us a lot of money in the long run. Auto mechanic, yes, we are so. The word blessed doesn't even describe it. We are so enriched by having Brett as our auto mechanic. Before I was doing the little bit I could do and then farming out most of the bus work and even vehicle repairs to other companies in town. Brett is a magician when it comes to working on vehicles. He's one that can just walk up and listen to a thing and tell you, nope, that's what needs to be done. And then he fixes it. And faster than I can even think about it, he has it fixed. He's replaced, filters on the buses up under the bus, not just a little oil filter, but the transmission filters, the transmissions on the air conditioners. We used to have to send it down to Dallas for work like that. Even maintaining our golf carts, which has become a major expense as we've grown staff wise. We've added probably 6 golf carts to the fleet, and some of the older ones have basically aged out. So he's been able to rebuild those and keep those going just a little bit longer until we can replace them. We've started stocking things better than we have in the past. We've set up a few tool rooms and supply rooms. We have shelves of plumbing supplies now. So instead of having to go to the store every time and get a part, we usually have it in stock. Even larger ticket items like washers and dryers and refrigerators, we try to keep one as a spare so that when one of the housing units goes down, we can usually fix it within a day. That's one of our KPIs, Mark, is to reduce our work order completion time this year. Yeah. You love KPIs, right? Cool. Let's go to the next one. Again, that's exactly where you know your KPIs. You collect and analyze the data. Yeah. With the capital assets in the building and the property, you have to know what you have to work with. We know the age of everything. The master facilities plan has a history section in there that describes what's been done across the campus, but then for each building, it lists the major repairs and remodels, the HVAC, the plumbing, the electrical. We track the work orders and major and minor repair. Yeah, I can't even talk today. Major and minor repair requests and keeping supplies. Go ahead and go to the next slide. These are the type items that ended up on the deferred maintenance list. Window replacement has been a big one, and right now we just can't get them. I reached out again to our window suppliers, and they said maybe by Friday, they'll have a handle on when we might be able to get replacement windows for some of our buildings. There's a couple of the buildings on campus that I know Dr. Ruda has said they are really in a great need of windows. They leak air and water and just aren't good. We're pretty caught up on the roof replacement and the tunnel cap and the hydronic pipe. We're working through the access control and security cameras, which somehow got on there twice. The domestic plumbing and the backflow preventers. We recertified the backflow preventers yesterday, which is a government requirement that every year you go through these and make sure that they don't allow water from the college to get back into the city system. We're looking to add an additional chiller. Right now, we only have one chiller that makes the air conditioning for the campus. Working on replacing ductwork, ceiling tile, emergency lights. The old square VCT tile we're doing away with and putting down what they call LVT or LVP. It's a thick vinyl tile that looks like wood plank or has a smooth finish on it. Asbestos remover and encapsulation, working on the irrigation system and also to bring the athletic fields, up to quality. Let's go to the next slide. One of the things we found really helps is to log the maintenance activity. We really hit the HVAC prevention hard this last year, trying to reduce the downtime, the number of emergency calls and work orders, and the efficiency of the system. We're working with CNC Group, and they're a company that's done our building controls for a number of years, but they provided us with this AI component and also coil cleaning. Our facilities department is working on preventative maintenance schedules for things like filter replacement and belt replacement and other planned events. So we're not behind all the time. The worst thing you can have is a system that you don't know anything about. As long as we can document things properly, it's easy to know what to expect that's going to happen next. Could I have the next slide, please? Partnerships with vendor. I mentioned CNC Group. They've been wonderful for us. Eventually, this system will know our class schedules and be able to turn the equipment on in advance of the class start time, so that by the time the class gets there, it's at the right temperature. That means we won't be running them all night like we used to. And it should save us maybe half of our energy expense by doing that. It also runs them in the off-peak hours and limits the peak demand charges from the utilities. That's wonderful. Preventative maintenance on things like the backflow devices. Let's go to the next one. This is the big thing, is you do the job right the first time. I have a rude thing I say to my staff every morning. I won't share it here, but not good enough. You don't settle for good enough. You don't things halfway. You don't do things halfway. We've assigned staff their own buildings. So each one of our facility staff is responsible for at least seeing what needs to be done in the building, not necessarily doing all the maintenance in the building, but noting where there's damaged ceiling tiles, where there might be a leak from the heating system, or bad bathroom fixtures, or leaks in the walls, floors, even things like tile coming up. We found, I'll share it because it's fixed, but we found a really embarrassing situation in fine arts where years ago, someone had covered damaged floor tile with a carpet. And none of us really knew it was like that because this carpet never was moved. I'm sure the custodians saw it occasionally when they did the floors, but during the ceiling tile replacement, we pull up this carpet and there's about 10 foot of floor tile that's all cracked and broken and missing. So we replaced that. I hate finding things like that. The other thing, sorry. Oh, yes, yes. We're actually looking right now to what it would take to put that VCT product in the fine arts. That's the last surface we haven't covered in there this year. We've taken to standardizing parts, which sounds simple, but we had probably 30 different water faucets on campus. And when one would fail, it would be hard to find the washers or the seat for inside of it or the little cartridge that went into it. Plus, some of them were probably 30 years old. So as they get replaced, we've standardized to a high quality one. It's a Delta faucet and the parts are readily available and we can stock them. So when a faucet leaks, we just go and get the cartridge, we put it in, we're done. And presenting the needs for resources to the administration. Like I said, every other week we sit down with Vice President Armstrong and we tell her, this is broke, that's broke, we need this. And she says, oh, sure, go ahead, spend the money.
Yeah.
That's really.
You were saying until then.
Let's go to the last one. Any other questions, comments, things we need to put on the list that you've seen? Yes, Beth.
First of all, I want to express appreciation from the municipal band for, when you cleaned up the weeds and everything else over there. Full history, and you probably don't want to know this, but I'm gonna tell you anyway. Garden City Municipal Band is a part of Garden City. We were founded in 1879. This year we celebrated our 145th anniversary. The city's a year behind us because we got to play that first year and they had to wait a year for their first anniversary. There are probably 65 people in that building on a Thursday night. There are 9 nights through June and July. And I understand we gotta keep the bill down, but if there's any way in future years for those 9 nights, we can increase or decrease the temperature just a little bit. We're not charged. We appreciate that. We have a board and one of the Johnsons is on the board. There's people from all over Southwest Kansas with different directors and so forth. And I appreciate the fact that we don't have to pay for the facility. We do every year budget to give a gift back to that building. Like this past year, we did music stand. We'll do something. Just wanted to appreciate.
We haven't been charging you?
Huh?
We haven't been charging you?
That's an uncovered source of funds.
Yeah, go ask Carla for money.
Okay,
Ryan just
now I
found
know where
it.
there's some money at.
Fair way.
Yes.
Some years we've done instruments, some, and so forth. Just wanted to express my appreciation. The last thing supposedly, and I wasn't in the first band, but supposedly, we're the oldest continuous serving band west of the Mississippi.
Okay.
And like I said, this is now, a year or the COVID year, we stretched a little bit, but there's 5 brass players in the band that played at the cemetery. So we got a job there. But do appreciate it, but if there's just some way for 65 people or so that
Oh, yes.
you could lower that temperature just a little bit for 9 Thursday nights.
I will
We're
check.
through. This last Thursday night's our last night, and we could suffer through one more.
Okay, I will check. This Thursday is,
Yeah, it's our
okay.
last
I will ask if we can turn that down over there. It's not actually on the main campus system
Right.
because it's a satellite building.
Just a little bit. When you sit there and you're playing and all of a sudden you gotta pull your rag out.
Well.
No.
Well, I think the main, the main point in this here is really just to talk through not only what's in the master facilities plan, but the other piece there is really being able to have some open dialogue, over the course of time on things that you're hearing, things that you're seeing, you're as much our eyes and ears about what do we need to be thinking about as the conversations that are happening here on campus and what we're having with stakeholders, so the piece that I would say just in probably our immediate eyesight, for future planning really has to do with student housing. And so as we're looking at things, debt service for student housing right now, is through 2026. What we don't want to do is wait until 2026 to begin planning and thinking about what do we need to do for updating, replacing student housing. We need to be having those conversations throughout the course of the next few years and really looking at what is it that we feel like we're needing on student housing, looking at other campuses and what they've done to address student housing needs, talking with students and others, so that we're in a position at the point that we are able to start moving forward, that we're not waiting until that time frame to start having the discussion. So a lot of what we will be bringing forward and having conversations with you here over the next few years, and we are going to start going around and just taking a look at other projects and other campuses over the course of this next year. It's starting to do a lot of that design conversation. What is it that our design wants to look like? What is it we want to incorporate? West halls that are original to campus are not what students are looking for right now. That is not the traditional housing. It's not what it is that attracts and excites a student about coming and living on a college campus. We've done a lot there over the course of several years and having different types of living options and living arrangements that do meet a lot of our students' needs, but that's going to be primary for us as we go forward, looking at how it is that we address student housing moving forward. But other thoughts or ideas that you have or conversations, questions there from the presentation?
Well, I am impressed at the level of thoughtfulness, thoroughness, the organization and focus you have for this department, and then the passion. We can tell you care just by the presentation you put out, and that gives me comfort to feel like things are on the right path. So thank you for what you do.
I'm glad to see that the fire systems are looked at as a very important thing. I just remember when we did the expansion on the meat department over there, that we kept having fire alarms go off, and we found fire sensors up in the attic or up in the ceiling that they were hooked up, but they just didn't put them where they're supposed to be. They just threw them up there. So
We are trying to find things like that and correct them. I think I used the word unacceptable. Anything like that is 100% unacceptable.
and it-
I would just say that I think our job as a board is yes, to compliment and appreciate what's been done, but we have to think about the future. We want to attract more students to this college. If we talk about student success, that means we have an open door. We are going to let people come in here. But that comes with a price, right? Like we need more student housing. We would need to look at the cafeteria and see if it's big enough. We would need to look at the kitchen and see if it's big enough. We'd have to have more classrooms. We would need more people to take care of all those things. So we're on the cusp of growing, I think, right? Would you agree with that? And so that's going to be our task as a board, is to think futuristically on how we're going to house these people and provide the education that we want to provide to them so that they are successful.
I've always said my vision for Garden City Community College is to be the shining light at the top of the hill. We're getting it that way with the facilities that we have. And I wonder if it's not time for an ad hoc committee or somebody to try to start looking into the future. What a lot of what Marilyn said, what been said here. We need to be thinking down the road. And I don't have all those answers, but maybe we need somebody to kind of start brainstorming where they think the future is going, what's going to do to this institution. And I've always been a bigger fan of the tech programs. What's that going to be? What's that role going to be in the future? How many people are really going to want a 4-year formal education? And how many people are going to be looking at the tech? I see tech taking, well, I don't want to get into artificial intelligence, but you know, that's the direction a lot of things are going. And we don't want to be sitting fat, dumb, and happy and seeing it going by.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think to the points here, we have to be very methodical.
Yep.
And plan for our success. You know, had we been sitting back and thinking, 5 years ago about how it is that we're going to bring on new technical programs and not had conversations before about what tech programs we need to be looking at and talking with industry about how it is that we can better meet their needs. We would sit here and be thinking still about whether we should be adding carpet. We would be still thinking about what it is that we need to be doing versus being proactive and having those conversations and looking at how it is that we address space issues, and so I think, Marilyn's point and others made, we need to be future minded and looking at what are our next steps? What are the next projects? What are the next programs? What are the next things that we need to be thinking about? The STEM Success Center just didn't land on our lap. Those were things that we were thinking about as far as how do we address classrooms? How do we expand STEM programming? How is it that we meet the needs and things that we're hearing from industry on cybersecurity and robotics? Because we've been having those conversations. So I would encourage you there, as we go forward, it needs to be ongoing conversations we're having about what it is that we're looking at, how it is that we position the college for the future, and really looking at setting that stage through the master's facilities. We don't want to forego and lose sight of what it is we have. We have to protect the assets we have in place, but we also have to be forward looking at how it is that we address and position the college for moving forward with new programs to go forward as well.
I do agree with you that we need to do something about West Hall. So that would be my first vote.
East units need raised right now. East units and West Hall.
East units and West Hall. Okay.
Yeah, those are the two. I mean, they're original campus.
Mhm.
The bones of West Hall is still in good shape. But there's a lot of hurt maintenance. So, yeah, I think those are conversations that are incumbent on us to be having as far as how do we address student housing, what is it that our needs are, listening to students, what it is that their expectations are. Being in a position ourselves and we're ready to move forward with.
Well, one of the things in looking at those in West Hall and these units, you need somebody that can come in and first answer. You just need to gut it and take what you got and make it right, or you just need to raise it. And I don't know the answer to that, but I think that needs to be thought of first. In the public's mind, well, they had that old building out there, they could have done something with it. Well, we need to be sure we could or couldn't.
The cafeteria and kitchen.
Yeah.
Out there as well. Those are. We're very short on space
Right.
within the cafeteria. The kitchen is very outdated. We've done a lot to be able to update equipment, but space wise, those are things that we also. Need to
What's the average student gonna look like 10 years from now? You can tell me that, I can tell you what you need.
Younger than either one of us.
Wait a minute. Anything else that we need to discuss before we?
I would like to thank Craig for the great presentation on the master facilities plan and the work that you and your staff do. Very impressive. Very impressive.
Anybody got any ownership linkage? I guess not. All right, it looks like August is gonna be a real busy month. We got July the 29th, we got a board retreat. August the 3rd, I think we finally decided we can have a budget retreat at 7:30 in the morning in the president's conference room. August 8th, we've got an in-service. 15th of August, we got a board trustees meeting again. 29th of August, we got budget hearing, Pride Conference Center. And we're back in school, of course, at that time. Is there anything else we need to add to that, those dates, any changes? Jody, if there are,
It'll be ever changing, but no.
just make sure we all know it. I don't guess we have any more executive session. Is there anything more coming before this board before we adjourn? Speak now or for hold your peace till next week, next month. If not, I declare this meeting adjourned.
Oh, good, because me and that fly were about.
Yeah, well, he came in with you.
Please.
I thought he was yours.
I'm gonna start bringing my speeder beater with me to the
Is
meeting.
that one that shocks?
No, we got fly swatters with our low